Hello everyone! Welcome back to another strategic non-compliance. Unfortunately, one of our featured guests that we're hoping to have today is not available. They are sick. Isn't that right, Mike?
Isn't what right, Bunny?
Is it correct that unfortunately our guest that we were hoping to have on today is not available to be with us?
Yeah, I'm really brokenhearted. I was planning on, asking Claire if she would run away to the Bahamas with me or maybe Hawaii and living in a little shack and making beautiful little anarchist babies, but I'm not able to talk to her. I think she hates me. Actually Claire's sick. And she did a bunch of research for the show tonight and I didn't want to have it be diminished. So I talked to Claire and asked her if she could just come on Wednesday, and she agreed. So we're not going to have Claire Burnish, the writer, reporter, alternative media maven, on this evening. Instead, we're going to give you guys a tour of some recent tyranny, because nothing gets the blood pumping like, watching people get thrown on the ground for daring to hold video cameras.
Yeah, or just really out of control laws being applied to situations they don't really need to be applied to.
Yep.
And so you want to go ahead and get jumping right into the matter then?
Sure, man. You be our lovely guide, and I'll just be along for the ride.
Well, yeah, because I got control, and we don't really have a way of sharing these
yeah, it's
articles,
no big deal, brother.
Not without really diminishing the bandwidth quality here.
I'll be in charge of white knuckle cranky commentary.
And as usual, opening music was Techno Axe. That was Preoccupied. I figured something a little bit on the smooth side, since we needed to preoccupy ourselves with something new. Alright, so first article of the day is from the Miami Herald. Actually, this was sort of proposed to us from one of the people in my Discord channel, Shadowboxer, and he was talking about how people can be charged for murder when they were not actually involved in the actual murder itself, especially when police are the ones pulling the trigger. Cop killed a teen, but the boy's friend, not the officer, was found guilty of murder. This was published just on April 6th here. So 5 teens broke into... Oh wait, no, this is the wrong one. Let's see. Yeah, okay, never mind. This is the right one. Yeah. 5 teens broke into a pair of houses in Millbrook, Alabama in February 2015 to steal from them, police say. Lakeith Smith, then 17, and Donette Washington, 16, were 2 of those teenagers who aimed to burglarize the homes. Police told AL.com. Officers said they went to check on a house and arrested one of the teens sitting in a stolen car out front with a gun. Then the other 4 teens ran out of the house, police allege, before seeing the cops and running back inside. According to the AL.com, the officers found themselves the target of gunfire when they chased after the teenagers. As the 2 sides exchanged gunfire, police say Washington took out his gun and charged at an unidentified police officer, who fired fatal shots at him. Body cam footage the jury viewed in court showed the teen running with a revolver, according to WSFA. The jury found someone guilty in Washington's killing, but it wasn't the officer. Instead, Smith faces 65 years in prison after a jury convicted him in March. According to Montgomery Advisor, the circuit judge, Sibley Reynolds, this week gave him 30 years for felony murder, 2 10-year sentences for theft convictions, and 15 years for burglary. Why is the teenager doing time when he didn't pull the trigger and kill Washington? Alabama has an accomplice law that says someone can be held accountable for a murder even if they didn't commit it. If they were there and committing a crime with the deceased that led to the death. The teen's lawyer, Jennifer Holton, had argued in court that although her client isn't perfect, he can't be punished for Washington's death. "I told you, you won't see a halo in here," she said, according to FA. "They can put 50 or 100 witnesses in the box. They can't get that he participated in the death of a Donnet. But since Smith went along with the thefts, police say he is responsible for his friend's death." Assistant District Attorney Chrissy Peoples made that case before the jury, arguing that an accomplice to the crime is just as guilty, WSFA reported. Smith had the opportunity to accept a plea deal that came with the recommended sentence of 25 years, according to the Montgomery Advertiser. But he turned down and received 40 additional years. The three other surviving teens, L. Anthony Washington, 22, Jackson, and Hardy, pleaded guilty to the murder, theft, burglary charges, but haven't been sentenced.
Bunny, can I jump in here? I have to say a few things.
Go ahead.
What this makes me think of is what some of the major things that's really wrong with the American collective psyche. We worship authority. We value that worship of authority as a cultural value, and we're putting law enforcement in the position of being gods that can do no wrong. So basically, to me, this is just another way for the pig state to offset the police responsibility for their own actions. Another way to transfer it, as if though, you know, law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights and qualified immunity wasn't enough to insulate them from any culpability for their actions. Now they're, on top of that, people are being charged for crimes that they commit, or, you know, shootings. They're being charged with murder for shootings that they commit, further removing them from any responsibility for their own actions. And that just puts cops, think about this, if you're a cop and you're in the department, or you're a co-worker of someone who shot somebody and someone else was charged for that murder. Like, that's got to have a really creepy effect on police, and it gives them a sense of empowerment and entitlement that I find just quite frightening. And that's all I wanted to say, Bunny. Please continue.
Well, no, that's the end of the story, so that's what I was trying to say. Thoughts and opinions on it. Okay. And as is, I don't really see a reason to be charging specifically the teens, because I can understand the placement of the law, but these are teenagers. And if anything, only the person that was pretty much the leader of the group should be charged with anything close to this. And even then, I don't even think it should be, a felony murder where you're getting 35 years for something that the other teen was the one that started the shooting and started exchanging gunfire with the cops. Yeah. And did they tell the guy who had the gun the teenager who had the gun to start shooting at the cops? Or did he do it on his own initiative? It sounds to me like they should just get charged with the theft issues, and that's about it.
Well, this felony murder law is antithetical to logic, reason, and the basic elements to prove that someone committed a crime. It removes agency of self out of the equation and transfers culpability for the crime from one individual to another, and I think it's just illogical as hell, quite frankly. I mean, it's like, you know, you have mens rea, which is guilty mind, the intent and will to commit the crime, and you have corpus delicti. You know, you have to prove that somebody intended to commit a crime, and you have to prove the body of the crime, their physical carrying out of the crime, like they had the gun, their prints were on the gun, they aimed the gun and fired it and intended on killing someone. So it's like some kind of word magic they're trying to pull here to say that, oh, we no longer have to prove mens rea, corpus delicti, and we have some sort of a special way of just transferring agency of one individual onto to another, and it's just illogical. I mean, you understand where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah. It's just like, okay, well, we want to be able to rope these people in for a little bit longer and and add on an extra charge, but let's throw this on there. And I'm not really, I can see where these charges need to apply. I mean, can apply, but in this situation, I think this is prosecutorial overreach with the charges. It just doesn't. This doesn't make sense, in my opinion. And of course, they punished this one guy because he didn't take the fucking plea deal.
Sure. And we're not lawyers, but, you know, we both try to study the law as best we can as lay people. But I also understand that there's already reckless endangerment laws. There's already manslaughter laws. You know, those apply. You know, if you take somebody along, hypothetically, to a liquor store robbery, you know, and you're the one with the gun and that person gets hurt, it's reasonable to say that you recklessly endangered that person's life, your tag along, you know, and manslaughter could apply, you know, or reckless endangerment of someone else's life could apply. I mean, those laws, you know, kind of, they're logical, at least. They follow a logical progression, you know, if A it happens, B happens, and then C happens. But this stuff is just kind of illogical, or very illogical, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at the other article you went and found while we're doing some quick research here. This is the Marshall Project, charged with murder without killing anyone. In 2012, 4 teenagers, and this was, oh, okay, I don't see a published date on this one. Let's see. In 2012, 4 teenagers and their 21-year-old friend decided to burgle a house in their hometown of Elkhart County, Indiana. No one in the group had any weapons. They picked a house they thought was unoccupied. The homeowner was actually asleep upstairs and armed. When the 5 kicked down the back door, Rodney Scott came downstairs and fired his gun, killing 21-year-old Danzel Johnson and hitting another in the leg. The surviving members of the group, who became known as the Elkhart Four, were soon facing up to 55 years in prison for a murder they didn't plan, intend, or commit. The sentence were a result of a complicated, controversial statute called felony murder. Most states have some version of a felony murder law in their criminal code, such as statutes allow for defendants to be convicted of murder, and in some cases face execution if the death occurs because of felony they commit, even if they were not the direct killer. The Indiana Supreme Court overturned the murder convictions for 3 of the 4 Elkhart Four last week, finding that there was simply nothing about the appellate's conduct or conduct of their cohorts that was clearly to the immediate or immediate cause of their friend's death. The fourth had pled guilty to the crime and has filed his own petition. Defenders of the statute believe that such rules hold people accountable for consequences of their crimes. We don't really want people dying and sort of shrugging off our shoulders and say, oh well, Elkhart County Prosecutor Curtis Hill told the Indianapolis Star. As the court considered the Elkhart Four's appeal, part of the justice system is bringing closure and completeness in terms of what happened, why it happened, and what ought to be done. Let's see. From drunk driving to heart attacks, the felony murder rule has existed in some form in the U.S. since the 19th century. Many other countries have, however, have abolished the law. In 1986,
yeah, I was gonna, talk about that a little bit. As Europe abolished it a long time ago, like the versions of it. But go ahead.
Most of the European Union, you mean, or?
Yes, most of the Central European countries. The English speaking, the ones that, all those folks that speak English as a second language.
All right. In 1987, the Supreme Court ruled that certain cases of felony murder could merit a death sentence if the defendant showed a reckless disregard for human life and committed crimes that carried a grave risk of death. Most states specify the rule should only apply when deaths occur during specific crimes like robbery or rape. Other states, including Georgia and Missouri, apply these statutes regardless of the type of felony. Which we sort of read earlier. People can face felony murder under a variety of circumstances. Texas prosecutors, for example, have used the statute against repeat drunk drivers to upgrade manslaughter charges to murder. The charge, the charge has also been given to individuals who are far more tangentially involved. In 2011, a Florida prosecutor charged a shoplifter, Marvin Bettis, with a felony murder after Target security guard collapsed and later died after a struggle to handcuff him. Bettis pled guilty to third-degree murder in 2013 in exchange for a 5-year sentence. Okay, so that's messed up. They charged him with murder because the other guy dropped over of a heart attack from physical exertions.
So, wait. So, this fat-ass security guard couldn't put the fork down, and his extra KFC, supersizing his KFC menu, caused him to have a heart attack, and they charged this other poor bastard with murder? That is completely insane. Like, you know, the porker should have put the fork down. I mean, that's just crazy. Wow.
Yeah, that's come on, guys. That's definitely, that's another case where it shouldn't even be applied. But that's Florida. Go figure.
I mean, if your lard is pushing in on your heart, I mean, someone else shouldn't be, you know, forced to pay for that in the prison system. That's ridiculous. I mean, come on, you know, Fatty should have put the fork down.
Yeah. Okay. What everyone gets wrong? Let's see here. Let's see, but for, Merbeast. Merbeast is back. Hey, yo, man. But for the felony, there would have been no death of the guard. Well, that's his own physical exertions for the thing, and the guard may not have the rights to. How should I put it? I'm not sure if the crime warranted a citizen's arrest in that case. Okay. Anyway, getting on. What everyone gets wrong, because the intricacies of a plea deal. Well, plea deals, appeals, and criminal histories, people convicted of felony murder can receive harsher sentences than those directly responsible for killing. In 1996, Stephen Hatch was put to death for felony murder. He and a friend, Glenn Ake, invaded a home in Oklahoma, raped a daughter, and tormented the family. Later, Hatch waited in the car as Ake shot the family and killed the parents. Ake appealed his capital sentence on grounds that he received inadequate support for his initial plea. His sentence was downgraded to life with a possibility of parole. In 2009, Robert Thompson was executed in Texas on felony murder charges during a joint robbery of a convenience store. Thompson and his co-defendant, Sammy Bootler, both fired shots at the two employees, but it was Bootler's bullet that ultimately killed one of the employees. Both shooters were eligible for death penalty, but the two separate trials came to two separate conclusions, and only Thompson was sentenced to death in part because of his criminal history. Insider's perspective. Attorney Sarah Swine has defended...
Sarah Swine, I love it. Okay.
Is that how to pronounce it? Swine?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how.
It has defended two clients charged with felony murder in recent months in Kansas, where the crime carries a mandatory life sentence. Such cases, she says, require a different legal approach. Swine has persuaded jurors to not focus on whether her client is technically guilty of felony murder, but whether a life sentence is fitting punishment for their indirect crime. It's up to you. It's up to you to convince jurors to act with their conscience and not their brain, she said. Attorneys don't understand that jury nullification is about making jurors see the unfairness of the situation. That's quite interesting.
It's quite interesting that they mention jury nullification. A lot of people view that as the dirty open secret, the molester uncle that no one wants to talk about. So it's kind of cool.
Well, the fact that she is actually applying, indirectly applying the jury nullification without saying it outright, it looks like. Let's see. One of her clients, Keller Cherokee was charged with felony murder after he helped, Kyler Cherokee, after he helped arrange a marijuana deal at a friend's house. The buyer turned out to be a gang member intent on robbery, and shot Carricker and killed the dealer. A jury ultimately agreed with Swine's argument and found Carricker not guilty of murder, though he still faces prison time for the drug conviction. Okay, I just gotta add something here. He just arranged a deal. He had no intent. The felony murder shouldn't even apply to that situation. You have yeah. Go ahead.
Like I said before, this stuff is just people in the system, people that think that they should be insulated, you know, from culpability. It's just another way for law enforcement to have a loophole to where they can tack on extra stuff and limit their liability. That's what I see this being used the most for, you know. Yeah. And then to augment the already existing, or it makes the already existing reckless endangerment and manslaughter laws even. It just puts people in prison for longer, and it's creepy. Like I said, how can they even go there logically to remove agency of self out of the equation? You know, ultimately, that's all we can be responsible for is our own actions, and we should be held accountable for that in a just society. And that's not my logical issues with this, but you know, wow, it's just wow.
Yeah. Okay. Quotations. You have you have to have jurors that are going to be able to put themselves in that position and think, Jesus, what if that was me? Would I want to be held accountable for murder I didn't have anything to do with, Swine said. And on to the juveniles, the debate of juveniles. Felony murder laws are especially controversial when it comes to children, because lawyers and advocates claim they can easily be manipulated into playing a role in an older offender's crime. A 2005 report by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International found that 26% of juveniles sentenced to life without parole had been convicted of felony murder. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer recently weighed in on whether juveniles should be punished with life for such crimes in 2012 concurring opinion in Miller versus Alabama, which found that mandatory sentences of life without parole for juveniles was unconstitutional. Breyer wrote, "The kinds of homicide that can subject a juvenile offender to life without parole must exclude instances where the juvenile himself neither kills nor intends to kill the victim." The amicus brief in the upcoming Supreme Court case on the retroactivity of Miller asked the justices to consider outlawing such punishment for youths convicted of murder without killing anyone themselves. Oh, okay, there it is. This was published in 2015, so it's about 2 years past.
Let me throw some salt at this. Okay, here's the thing, people. This felony murder being applied to children is even worse, okay? Because the neuroscience of the teenage brain, their prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed. So that fight between their fight or flight, their impulse control, and their logical discerning part of their brain, that dialogue isn't fully developed. So that's why, you know, there's an age of consent for drinking alcohol and for sexual activity. It's because children's brains are the neuroscience says that that a teenage brain isn't developed to the point to where they can fully express mature impulse control. So not only do you have the biology stacked against these kids, and they're ended up being put in prison for life without parole, but you're also transferring agency away from the culpability for their actions. So it's like a double whammy there. I mean, that is just, it's beyond the pale of cruel and unusual to be doing this to children.
Yeah, and the thing is part of the reason why we sort of was talking about this is because this guy here, the guy that got guilty in 65 years, he was 15 when that happened.
Yeah, the brain's not fully developed.
Yeah, as is, teens are easily to influence, especially when you got an older teen that's wanting to do something, or one that sort of shows enough influence to have control of a group hierarchy kind of thing. It just that kind of influence happens. Yeah, and so if they get convinced, like you sort of see this also with grooming of children for pickpocketing and stealing and stuff like that, where they're intentionally used because they can get around the law. Well, they're not going to be punished as long with the laws, and it's sort of an easy scapegoat to be able to reuse them constantly until they turn close to the age of 18. In which case, then the ringleaders turn them loose and say, "Okay, you're on your own."
Yeah, in an adult's mind, there's a constant argument between the amygdala, I can't pronounce it, but just Google it, and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala is constantly saying, hey, let's do this on impulse. That girl looks really hot. I think it might be a good idea for you to grab her ass. And then your prefrontal cortex says, you know, you could get yourself in trouble for that. You know, you might get slapped. You might get sex crimes. You know, she might smack you in the mouth if you do something stupid and impulsive like that. A teenager's mind doesn't have that prefrontal cortex to argue with the instinct part to do, you know, impulsive, violent, or sexually or aggressive things. So, wow, like, I'm sorry to run this into the ground, but it's like they are literally physically hindered from having access to that dialogue between the part of our brain that gives us caution, you know? So I'm just pissed, man. I'm just really angry. It's systematic child abuse.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, I'm not even sure about, I mean, what's the details on the specific cases, so we're not able to really see, are these worthy of being felony cases? But, I mean, with, like, the instance of the shoplifter kind of thing, shoplifting generally doesn't fall into a felony crime. It is usually a misdemeanor crime with the one security guard who ended up dropping dead, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're getting charged with felony murder. It's like, what the hell? Did they just upvalue the items that was on the person there? Yeah, it just, there's all kinds of issues that really need to be make a closer look, and these laws probably need to be reevaluated in many cases, depending on which state we're looking at. I mean, we got several examples with just in this one article here.
Sure. I mean, the point of the phrase, you know, the colloquialism that the Constitution is a living document, that's meant to illustrate the fact that, you know, the Supreme Court and the various levels of our legal system evolves the law forward. That's the idea of it logically. And the neuroscience says that teenagers aren't exactly able to be fully responsible for their actions up until a certain point. And the law needs to catch up with the neuroscience.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're correct in that aspect. There's many areas where the law is behind the technology or the current understanding of general social sciences and stuff like that have brought better understanding to how things are going. And
yeah,
go ahead.
Let me give a quick example of the technology not catching up, or the law not catching up to technology. In Oregon, they have a intercepting of communications law, and it's basically it goes back to the late 1940s, when you actually had to physically tap in and connect wires to someone else's phone to listen. And it says if you record with any electronic means the conversation of two people without their knowledge, you're guilty of intercepting of communications. Now, when police want to be abusive, they'll charge someone that's recording something in plain view, in public, and they'll charge people with intercepting of communications. But, you know, the cell phone camera, there's watch cameras, there's little cameras that look like a pin you can put in your pocket, and the cameras so ubiquitous, they're everywhere on your bus benches, in your buses, in your convenience stores, at your corner lights, that if that law was, you know, universally prosecuted, every city and every private business in the country would have like multiple felonies every minute, you know. But police will selectively cherry pick individuals that they want to punish and charge them with intercepting of communications. And there's many laws just like the ORS in other states, and that's another example of how the law hasn't caught up with the technology.
Yeah. Not to mention, I mean, certain cyber crimes. I mean, recently, it was just in the last 5 years with was it the revenge porn actually becoming being added to criminal books. I mean, onto the law books and all that stuff, and that's been going on since probably ever since images were being used on the internet.
Yeah, the Oregon revised statute about harassment covers revenge porn. Under the many various definitions of what harassment is in Oregon, one of the versions of harassment is posting or publishing nude or risque video or images of another person, without their consent. So that has actually caught up in Oregon, and I just wanted to throw that out there since both of us live there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, oh, and yes, Murbeast is correct. The police still don't really officially bring the charges. It's the prosecutor or the district attorney that brings the charges. So,
yeah, the district attorney's job is to do that, and they act as the attorney for victims in many cases. Like, if somebody's hit by a car and they're severely hurt or killed by a motorist, the DA acts on behalf of their interest. They're the attorney for that person that was hurt.
Anyway, moving on. Let's go ahead and look at the video that just came out in the last 24 hours over at San Diego. Mike, do you? Well, actually, I got more preface on this. A group of people decided to go and do another like First Amendment test or audit over at a border crossing, and well, as you can see through at our my circle thing here, you can see someone's on the ground there. But Mike, what you were having fun with this? Why don't you go ahead and take it back to the start of where it was sort of enjoyable? That you're having fun with making fun of this.
Well, I have to thank Common Sense for the 20 buck
beep beep
super chat. Yeah, thank you, Common Sense. You're awesome. You're the man.
All right, back on track.
Right on. So yeah, I just wanted to thank Common Sense if he heard me, because I didn't want to be talking over the little money cloud thing. All right, so yeah, this is the first time that I've seen this video, Bunny, and some things jump out, and I want to talk about them before we play the video, brother.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, they're at a border crossing. I don't know who these activists are because Bunny showed me this video. But these guys are pretty cool. They work as a decent team together. I like how when the security guard walked up, one of them said contact, as if though I was like, watching Rainbow Six being played online or something, where they're pretending like it's a military conflict. I thought that was funny. I also thought it was very interesting that I think he's sub-Saharan African, culturally. The security guard that approaches these guys, they ask him at one point what his name is. And he says it's right there, and he points to that tiny little reflective name tag that you can't tell what the heck is going on. You can't read it. And then later they ask him, is he an American citizen? And he says, oh, the security guard replies, that's private. I'm not going to discuss it. So obviously he's not an American citizen. And the big thing with me is that they hire people from third world countries or countries with tyrannical laws to work at a border checkpoint. And these people don't really see civil liberties as a cultural value. So they make a perfect vehicle for the oppressors. They're not going to have the same value for the First Amendment, for the Fourth Amendment, for your right of due process, for your Fifth Amendment. I mean, your double jeopardy. None of these fun things that we grew up as a cultural value are they going to, respect one iota, and it's clearly demonstrated in this video. But
yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to stop you there, and we're going to show the video first before you hop into this thing. We need to show them first before you. This is a problem. I'm going to have to criticize you on your article writing because that was one of the things that threw me off. So anyway, I'm going to stop you there. This is FOP Productions. He's a new person. He's got currently 220 subscribers, it looks like. New on the circle. I didn't even know about him. I just subscribed to him today. Ignore the red button there. I'm on one of my alt accounts on on.
Okay. Well, and I just wanted to preface what they were saying. I'm not trying to do commentary after, but like we can do that after. But go ahead.
Yeah, as I said, you're jumping ahead again, so we're gonna go ahead. It was.
Well, Bunny, wait a second. The reason why I was doing that in my Steam It post, just so you know, is because I had already shown the people that subscribed to my blog post, and if I had to do it over on our show, of course I'd show the video first, and I apologize.
Yes, as I said, if you're gonna have me covering something, and it's gonna be something like that, I'm gonna criticize you just to give you a heads up. I am gonna criticize you heavy, so you got to keep in mind you got to do it with the what we're working with here. So
I got you. It's no biggie. Like next time we'll just show the video first.
Yeah. Okay, so where was it? Oh yeah, it was. Okay, so a little bit before here.
Hey, contact. Says who?
Is that a law, sir?
Yeah, it's a federal.
What law is that?
What law is that? Can you tell me?
Please quote it.
Guys.
Name and badge number.
Guys.
Name and badge number.
That's my name? Good.
No.
Let me
Name and badge number.
Let me tell you.
You
sir.
are
Don't tell me.
Oregon System Security, correct?
Yes, I am.
Are you a federal worker?
Yes, I work for
Okay, name and badge number.
Are you a police officer or just security
Sir.
officer?
Name and badge
Are you
number.
a security officer or
Sir.
police officer?
Let me tell you this.
Can you answer
I'm
my
a
question?
security officer.
Okay, I don't have to listen to you. Have a nice day.
All right, but you can be on the bridge.
I can be on the bridge.
Watch
My
me.
text
Watch me
message
right here on the bridge.
Sir,
No.
I know what you're doing, and that's not allowed, okay?
Here we go again.
So you need to, you guys need to stop that.
No,
you can record over there, but you can't record over here.
Watch me.
I asked him if he was a security officer or federal protective police officer. He said security officer.
Sir.
I don't have to listen to him.
We've already been through this one.
You don't know what we're doing?
I know what you guys are doing.
What are we doing?
You can record and put it on website, whatever you want to do, but you can't do that over here.
Why not?
We can. It's, have
You
you heard
know
of the
law.
First Amendment?
Okay, I don't know the law.
Are you
Well, then don't quote something if you don't
You
know.
can't record.
Sir, are you an American
You can't
citizen?
record any federal property. This
course
is
we
federal-
can.
Yeah, we can.
Since
Sir,
when?
are you an American
Since
citizen?
2010.
2010, DHS 2010.
Sir, are you
Yeah.
an American citizen?
Hang on, guys. What is it? Don't gang
I
up
don't
on
have
it.
to. I don't have to answer.
You
that
don't want to
question.
answer that?
I said,
I
don't
don't have
gang
to
this.
answer that question.
Okay.
That's personal.
Don't gang up on it.
All right, come on.
So
That's
listen.
the question.
Oh, what? You want to take me
He doesn't
somewhere?
know the
Yeah,
law.
you gotta walk down. Let's go that way. That way.
Why do I have to walk that way?
Because I feel
That's
like
what we would want.
you want to talk to me. You want to record me. Then come on, you go to
Hey, man.
Okay.
How's it going? What's up, man? Thank you.
Yankees.
Why do I have to go that way? Why do I want to go that way? I want to go that way.
That way.
Okay.
Then I can show you where it says you can record.
No. That only applies to commercial.
Your name E. Ecolosty? Is that how you pronounce it?
Sorry, sir, but you're going to get an education today.
Okay. If you don't know how to pronounce it, then don't.
We can only if we do it commercially.
Yeah, if you were
This is
rude
not- this
to
is
me, so
educational.
I'm just
You know what?
answering.
Fuck you.
Okay, that's cool.
Eat a fucking dick,
That's
asshole.
good.
Hey,
All right.
easy,
Yeah,
killer.
he wants to be an asshole. I'm gonna be
Alright.
an asshole. I get what I get.
Well, there you
That's
go.
very nice of you, sir.
Yeah, and I did it on camera. I got about 50 people watching.
I know that's fine.
Good. I tried to come up to you and
You were
engage you
rude
in
to
conversation.
me the first time.
Well, you know what? I'm not perfect. I'm not a
Okay,
perfect
so if
person.
you guys want to walk, I can show you where it said that you can't record in the photo.
I've already read it. No, that's only commercial purposes only.
Okay.
This is educational.
Okay, so
It's educational.
whatever, man.
All right.
Not whatever.
Not whatever. The law is not
You guys
whatever.
go with the whatever.
All right, that's a good stopping point for this first part. Okay, Mike.
Yeah, man.
Let's go
What's up?
ahead. Let's go ahead and look at the DHS memo.
Okay.
And any specific
Now-
part you want to look at first before I start ripping into this and give my criticism also about some of the statements.
Well, the thing is that I'm only able to watch at a delay. So could I get a link sent to me through the Discord that I can watch what you're showing them?
Yeah, look at your video because there is no screen sharing. I got set up with this because of
cool.
bandwidth issues. We covered this before, so
okay.
I can only work so much with the tech I have set up.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So you've shown them up until the point to where the first contact was made, and the sub-Saharan African fella explained to him that he doesn't know the law, and they've already asked him, you know, are you an American
You're in the
citizen,
My
all that
Circle,
kind of stuff.
right? You're still in the My Circle?
No, I'm looking at my live chat. I don't even have the My Circle.
Get the My Circle up! There's a reason why I put the link in there in the first place.
I asked you to send me the link. This confuses the hell out of me.
Go back to the live stuff. Okay, go back to the live stuff.
You mean in the Discord?
Into the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Scroll up.
Okay.
Until you see mycircle.tv/blah blah blah
okay,
blah.
there you go. You know, you didn't have me go through this before we started the show, so I have like 10 windows open. Okay, so okay.
You need to manage your tabs better. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, like this is difficult to say the least. Okay, I'm willing
muscle
to
memory.
pay.
I'm gonna get the monkey wrench out so I can beat you with it, man.
No, we're gonna get some sort of software where this is easier, because I'm not learning 5 pieces of tech every fucking week. I'm just not gonna do it. Like we can pay to you have your stuff on a 50-inch screen. I have this tiny little like laptop screen. It's just not gonna happen. So anywho, so yeah, I see where we're at the whatever you call it, the My Circle. Last week it was something different. Last week it was Watch Together.
Yeah, Watch Together. My Circle seems to be doing a little bit better because I was watching you mess with it. So
okay, yeah. So I still need permissions for the My Circle, but it won't let me pause. But anywho, we can bicker at each other later. I'm sure people are giggling about this. But yeah, that's the part that really annoys me, is that they hire these people that aren't from this country, and they don't have the same kind of value placed on civil liberties. And that's the thing that annoys me the most about the first contact on the bridge itself. You know, and what are your thoughts, Bunny, about the whole hiring? I don't mind that they'll hire somebody on a work visa from someone else, from somewhere else, but when they act like a tyrannical bastard, then I do have an issue with it. You know.
Well, you've seen me deal with people like that in the past with the Alaska Federal Courthouse / Visitor Center, and how I sort of did put that one guy in his place. Especially when he sat there and tried to pull the veteran card. I served 20 years in the military. I served 4 years and I'm a disabled vet. Yeah, I just completely neutralized your argument there of sympathy because of feels.
Yeah, my
experience.
My entitlement card is slightly better than your entitlement card. I've seen that kind of thing before. There's a former Army Ranger that works with Portland Police Bureau in Central Precinct in the bar crawl. His name's DeLong, and I've seen him deal with people, vets that are drunk and they're trying to pick fights with anybody who happens to look like they're from the Middle East. And he shuts it down. He's like, you don't need to be talking about this entitlement stuff. I was in the Rangers. You know, you don't have a right to be, attacking people in the street. You should just cut that shit out. And I think it's cool when veterans admonish other ones when they're trying to use this entitlement stuff to, try to excuse their bad behavior. So good on you veterans for doing that to each other, because, it shows some sort of integrity, and I like that.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the DHS memo, which they were citing and all that stuff. What was there any specific part you wanted to point out on this? Because I'm gonna be ripping both sides in this. Sure,
there was mistakes on both sides. I really think so as well, and we'll do both sides of it. But yeah, I want to just fast forward up to right before the arrest, because basically they just walk with him and they cross the bridge.
Well, I'm pausing specifically at this part because that's a different situation. We're covering this first part. Remember, there's 2 parts. We're going to cover this part here where they're exchanging stuff. That's why I stopped it here, man.
Sure. Well, you just go ahead and I'll listen for now, okay?
Okay. So, first off, the security officer doesn't know jack shit. And literally shouldn't be... I mean, once they're, sort of citing some stuff, maybe you should think twice about what he's doing. But obviously, he's probably a lower paid kind of thing. He's got a decent job. He's not going to care. He's just going to do what he's told. Now, as is, you can hear early on within that area of the clip there that they're stating that this only applies to commercial. No, as is, when you look at the bottom of the first page of the DHS memo, Title 41, CFR Section 102-74.420. It's a federal regulation. Except where security regulations, rules, orders, or directives apply, or federal court order or rules prohibit it, persons entering in or upon federal property may take photographs of space occupied by tenant agencies for commercial, non-commercial, for agencies for non-commercial purposes with the permission of an occupying agency concerned. Space occupants by tenant agency for commercial purposes only with the permission of an authorized official of occupying agencies. Building entrances, lobbies, foyers, corridors, or atriums for news purposes. Well, as is, it's not just education, they're doing news. And news can be non-commercial or commercial. It falls underneath either one, depending on how it's all done. In general, if it's just for news, voila, there's your exception. Building entrances, lobbies, foyers, corridors, atriums. This only deals with the interior areas, really. And what's even further explained, because the settlement that came out of this, that created this document, was dealing with a news photographer who was standing in a courtyard area of a courthouse. And what causes was the courts, pretty much the judge is going to say, he was standing out in a public area, a public space, where he's legally allowed to be at, where people can sit there and protest and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
it's
go ahead.
It's written in plain English, and you're absolutely 100% right. You know, it's very easy to understand that. That's not like esoteric language that's used.
Yeah, and specifically on page 2 at the top, for properties under the protection of jurisdictions of FPS, there are currently no general security regulations prohibiting exterior photography of any federally owned or leased building, absent of a written local rule or regulation established by Court Security Committee or Facility Security Committee. Furthermore, it is important to understand that the regulation does not prohibit photography by individuals of the exterior of federally owned or leased facilities from a publicly accessible space such as streets, sidewalks, parks, and plazas. Now, as we can clearly see, let me back this up a little bit here. This looks like a publicly accessible public crosswalk above a busy street area.
That's exactly what it is. It's a public thoroughfare.
Yeah. And so if you're legally allowed to be there, you're allowed to film there, and it's outdoors. Therefore, absent of reasonable suspicion or probable cause, law enforcement and security personnel must allow individuals to photograph the exterior of federally owned or leased facilities from publicly accessible spaces. So there we go. And what they, as is, I can understand taking a while. I mean, being on the scene, not knowing everything, getting everything figured out. If you really want to make, be able to throw some, when you make citations and stuff like that, don't just say DHS memo. Also cite this CFR right here. Title 41 CFR 102-74.420.
And I know that's a pet peeve of yours, Bunny, where people don't quote the CFR, because that even entitles you to speak with more authority when you're dealing with these goons that are overstepping their goose stepping. I agree with Bunny. You really need to get specific. Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the whole thing, because and I got to harp on myself. I was just as bad myself. I'm improving too. We're constantly having to improve. And as is, I understand, they're new. And it's just my criticisms of the situation at hand.
on how to handle it. And it's like, oh, only for commercial. No, well, you're doing news purposes, you're gathering content for, I mean, your publication that you're going to be putting out there, either through for news purposes or media purposes, commercial, not commercial. You're legally allowed to do it. There's no restriction for that crosswalk for it being commercial or non-commercial. The only time it's really a restriction on the commercial side of things is if you're like going to take up a bunch of space where you have to close down part of that walkway or something like that, which they aren't. People are able to walk around them, continue on. They're not, I mean, causing any major issues on the traffic or restrictions on them.
Like, the reason why the logic behind commercial use is because they have to run cables for the audio, the XLR cables. They have to run electricity for the lights, the light bars, the light alls, the soft boxes, all this stuff, the booms, the grippers, the grips, the mic stands, all that fun stuff. And that will block every bit of the public thoroughfare. That's why filming for commercial use has been looked at as, you know, unlawful unless you get permission. You know, it's because they have to manage the logistics of making sure that everybody has a reasonable navigation around the public thoroughfare being broken and that are blocked, and that makes perfect logical sense, you know. But news gathering can be done without, you know, all you need is one camera guy and one person with a microphone, you like, or just one blogger or one live streamer, and that will not, you know, block the public thoroughfare and interfere with people's rights of freedom of movement. So there you go, you know.
Yeah, and what was it? Parliament Hall Security. I'm looking up this one where that Merbeast is quoting here real fast. Challenge policies. Protection of banned photography. United States ports of entry without advance permission. Okay, I'll have to look at this one. This actually looks like something recent, maybe. I'm just doing a quick search here. I'll do a look at that one. I might have read it in the past. The name sort of sounds familiar. Merbeast. So maybe this weekend I gotta do more case law coverage of stuff. I'm really far behind on all that. But anyway, let's go ahead and move up to the next part. And let me also fix this here real fast. Okay, you have the ability to pause, control, and all that stuff. Let me hide this again.
Gravy.
And right about here is good enough.
I'm gonna walk that way. You talk to walk out. We'll walk. Don't arrest me. You can't touch me. I can't touch you. That's my personal space.
I'm already going to have to pause it for a second because we were talking about filming tactics and covering your buddies that you're with last show, and I want to point out that critiquing these guys, in hindsight being 2020, they were bunched up too much together. They were way too close to each other, and being able to cover each other with their cameras field of view was diminished, and that's one of the helpful critiques I want to give for this, and I'll continue the video.
Got it. Pause it for a second here. Merbeast, I'm going to give you a wrench, but that doesn't mean you get to moderate people. Got it? So I give the wrenches out mainly for people to be able to post citations and all that stuff. There you go. Okay, go ahead and continue.
You can't touch me. I can't touch you. That's my personal space. Did you see me? That's my personal space. Because you're impeding my progress. Get out of my way. Why are you raising your voice? Because you're in my way. Get out of my way. You're not allowed in this building. I'm not going. Get your hands off!
Hey, fucking touch my shit. Fuck. The fuck? Dude!
Get the camera off your hand. Get the camera off your hand. Go over there. Move over.
You can, so the sub-Saharan African fella who refused to identify his name, this is the second time he's gone after the camera. The first time he grabs it, you can see his hand clasp over the camera, and then he's like, get that camera out of your hands. Get that camera out of your hands. Like, wow. So he's obviously just really concerned about the camera.
Yeah. And the thing is the security officer, definitely in the wrong. They're allowed. This is now definitely a newsworthy incident that needs recording and documenting. There's legal precedent already, especially in the Ninth Circuit, on this issue. Fields v. Seattle, and then I can't remember the name out the other one out of Guam there.
Yeah, they just became a story. There wasn't a story before, but now there is one.
Take your fucking hands off me.
Move over there.
Get your hands off me.
Move over there. Move over there. Move over there.
Get your fucking hands
Get
off
out
me.
of here. Get out of here.
No, stop.
I want to bring up a tactic that I've employed quite a bit. I've learned this from trial and error filming dozens and dozens of arrests at protests. When someone gets taken down to the ground and you're with them and you're trying to cover them, the best tactic that you can do is to grab your camera with both hands so you're getting steady footage and hold the camera above the officer that's closest to you, that's pushing you to get you out of the scene, and walk backwards filming the subject that's on the ground, because your partner is very vulnerable at this point. So just remember that, and don't hold it with one hand, hold it with both hands so you can keep it steady, you know, and walk backwards as slow as you dare. You know, they're going to push you, but the further you get away, the less data that you can collect to protect your partner. And they're very vulnerable on the ground at this point. And is there anything else you want to add to this before I keep going, buddy?
No. Well, the only thing I got to say is I don't think he would have been... Well, the person that had the best angle is the guy that got taken down on the situation. The other guy that had the dog there, he was the one that had the major confrontation there going on. And of course, the other guy's just walking in. He barely even had a chance to get the camera set up in order to record anything before the security guard runs up and puts his camera on his hand on the camera. But go ahead.
I'm mostly talking about from about 5 or 6 seconds from this point in time.
Yeah.
The filmer should have had his hand on both.
Yeah.
You know, his hands above his head and his both hands on his camera, and walk backwards as slow as you dare. That way, you're getting more footage, because they could be really hurting his partner right now. But let's continue.
Resisting. Get out of here. You gotta go.
Stop resisting.
Get out of here.
Stop resisting. Oh, we got a lawsuit coming now.
Our attorney's already been in contact. That's fine. That's
Don't
good.
touch me.
Lawsuit.
Don't touch me.
I'm escorting you.
Don't touch me.
What's wrong with you?
Do not touch me.
You got problems.
You got problems. Get off of me.
I have no
Back
problem.
off of me.
We're
I'm
just
on public
good.
property. Do not
Good.
touch me.
Stay right here. We're good. We're good, boys. This is
If you take note, you can see the female officer there. She's like got her pepper spray out and she's ready. She wants to, you know, she's worrying about if she has to escalate force at this point.
this is exit only, not entry.
what?
Not entry. It's
Stop
exit
touching me.
only.
Stop
No,
touching
you
me.
cannot enter this facility. You can
Where
only
does it say that?
exit.
Yes.
Right now, you can
I'm
only
going
exit.
in.
You cannot enter.
Back off. You just
Film away.
You just got yourself a fucking lawsuit.
1983.
Film
away.
You just
Big
did a
fucking
federally
time.
protected retaliatory act against a federally protected activity. 42 U.S.C. 1983, 42 U.S.C. 1985. Every single one of you guys are now legally liable for that federally retaliatory act right there against 17 U.S.C. 107.
Yep. Oh yeah, trust me.
All right. Now, here's the thing. Threatening to prosecute under civil rights laws is not going to get you anywhere, and really, you're not helping the situation. I understand you're upset. You want to get back at him. That doesn't really help you. It doesn't do anything at all in your favor, to be honest. I mean, if you're going to make citations that justify the actions of your presence and recording and stuff like that, not the stuff that would be used in retaliation going through court cases and stuff like that. So,
you know, I don't want to be too harsh on judging other activists. I mean, I agree with you. Ultimately, I do agree that the cops are just going to ignore that, and they give exactly 0 fucks, you know. But I think it's good information for people that are watching this, and it will educate the public as to even the legal remedies that people have against their rights being violated. So it's valuable in that sense. But, you know, but you're right. This is criminal phase stuff. You know, you're going to have to defend yourself in criminal court first. So illustrating when they told you to walk backwards or when they told you to leave, like by pointing the camera at your feet and moving backwards immediately. You know, talking to them about what they're doing that could be, you know, beneficial to you in court at that moment would be more advantageous. But I mean, I applaud these people for doing this audit. I have respect for them, and I, you know, don't want to denigrate what they're saying, but I just want, you know, the knowledge base to be increased for all of us to do this better.
Yeah, and Merbeast actually has a really good comment retort here on this video. 17 USC deals with copyright issues. Copyright does not apply to this situation, please.
Yep.
Keep that in mind. Keep it focused on the situation. Don't just be listing off everything under the sun, please. That's one of the main things.
Well,
keep it focused on the situation.
It's an honest mistake, you know, when you get heated and jack with adrenaline, and they probably just made an honest mistake by misquoting. But yeah.
All right, go ahead and continue.
Okie dokie, let's continue watching the rest of this. And
we got a lot of FPS. Yeah. We never entered the building. We've got one of our photographers aggressively thrown to the ground, and I've been
illegally detained
multiple times by Rhodes. Rhodey. There you go. What's your badge number? What's your badge number? I don't know.
Come on.
You'll have to get it. That's your policy. You'll get it. That's your policy.
see, now the cameraman is trying to zoom in after all this time to cover his buddy, you know. And like I said, hindsight is 20/20. When you get jacked with adrenaline, you don't think. But he would have been able to cover what happened with his arrest and takedown a lot better if he would have held his hands up and, you know, filmed above himself way earlier than this. I mean, I understand that, you know, mistakes do happen, and I'm doing this not from a position of judgment, but from a position to be helpful for these guys later when they see this video. So I mean, no disrespect, you know.
And Merbeast, I don't even know if there's any charges pushed on him or not. I haven't gotten any further details on that. So, but go ahead.
Oh, you're right. I'm going to get it.
You got my name, right?
I'll get your badge number too.
Keep filming.
I am filming.
Good.
Lawyers are going to eat this up.
I know. I'm sure they will.
Oh, yeah.
No, you have a good day.
I am.
You Nazi
Trust me.
son of a bitches. You just threw a photographer down to the ground for doing nothing wrong. Sons of bitches.
Oh, yeah. You're going to fucking pay for this one. I promise you.
You know, I have to share with the audience and other auditors that are watching this, I have multiple examples of patented, on their face, prima facie violations of my civil rights. But since I used the word fuck, or I used F-bombs, or I cuss the cops out and overtly tell them that I intend on legal action, I've been told by multiple attorneys that you sound arrogant, that I sound arrogant, that I was poisoning a jury's ability to identify with me, and that I have to think about it this way. Jurors get paid like $25 a day to show up in court. Now you imagine like your average Joe takes a 95% pay reduction for every day they're on a jury, and there's this guy screaming and cussing at cops, and these people might be cop suckers in the first place. Like, a jury's not going to side with someone who's just cussing and stuff, and that's my bad. You know, I have 7 years of me cussing cops out, and if I had to do it over again, I probably would have kept my mouth shut in a lot of these situations. But I've ruined my ability to have legal remedy by using F-bombs and saying that I'm going to sue them. And that's just the way a lawyer perceives it. And is there anything you want to add to that, Bunny?
For the most part, I have to sort of agree with you on that part. The difficulty of finding a lawyer that's willing to take the case goes up considerably when you are speaking like this in the video itself. You know, in response, I can understand, and adrenaline's going, the rage and all that stuff. And I know Texas Sheepdog, he has his instances of cursing, but he applies it to certain situations, and he's usually he's got his legal end taken care of. He knows how to handle that stuff. He's got I'm not sure if he's got a lawyer or whatever, or he does it self-representation style like Sean Thomas does out of New York. But when it comes down to it, he's he's got things figured out. He's got it all lined up. He's got a plan of attack and all that stuff. He's using it strategically with the foul language.
Yeah,
in this situation, this is just sort of unfiltered mouth, which is easily able to hurt you in these instances. In fact, actually, I need to do a video or a live stream about conduct. Maybe I'll cover it in an essence, a future strategic non-compliance, about where if you do not self-discipline yourself when you're doing this stuff, you can actually hurt yourself doing these First Amendment audits, tests, or cop watching.
When we do that, Bunny, let's just use me as an example of what not to do, because I could pull up specific examples of times when I allowed my anger to screw up a lawsuit just by dropping the F-bomb.
Oh,
you know?
well, no. Well, the thing is actually I have found a really good example. I think I actually have two good examples from other activists where it crosses the line into you could be charged over the issue of fighting words, because you allowed yourself to not just allow your directed anger or verbal words to go at the government officials or those employed by the government, but also against general bystanders, which is crossing the line and could easily get you hemmed up or arrested. Which is something that it needs to be addressed, in my opinion, because I've seen quite a few people sort of edge towards that line, and a few of them have crossed it.
Yeah, over the last year, I've been able to shore up a lot of my language, and I'm being a lot more strategic. But for the 6 years before that of cop watching, I was just giving it to them as hard as I possibly could, and verbally. And the plus is that you get a lot of street cred. The plus is you get high fives, and people want to watch you cuss a cop out or stand up to authority online. So you get a lot of view count out of it. But the downside is that you're really going to have a hard time finding lawyers, and that's just the truth of it.
Yeah. Do we want to finish this up, or
yeah, let's watch the rest.
Nazi motherfuckers, every one of you with guns, with badges. This is America!
You fucked up, guys. You fucked up.
Do you know how bad you fucked up by arresting him? You just broke 2 federal protected
activities. Illegal. Illegal. Oh, that's gonna be a nice lawsuit right there. Oh yeah. You dumbass, that was live.
Motherfuckers. Nazi motherfuckers.
Oh, and that was live.
Alright, so quite the interesting coverage on that one.
Yep.
But we got another one that's interesting here. Pink camera
magic.
Pink camera magic. We're gonna get that loaded in here. Let's see here. My videos. Oops. Okay. Trying to get this loaded up. Did I screw this up? Let's see. Oh, here we go. Next one. This is. Oops. We'll go ahead and pause this. Why don't you sort of preface what you know about this one here real fast?
Sure thing. I talked to Pink Camera Magic a couple days ago about this, and I asked her if she'd come on the show, and of course she said yes. She's actually a friend of mine. We've audited together some, but basically what you have here is her filming where she's legally allowed to. It's outside of a federal courthouse. She's outside of the building, and she's approached by law enforcement, and they the part I find the most egregious is right when she says, are you familiar with the First Amendment? The cop says yes, and it reminds me of a Cobra striking. As soon as he says yes, he like grabs the camera super quick, and it's like really, really creepy. When I talked to her on Facebook Live, or the voice chat on Facebook yesterday, she told me that she was actually taken upstairs after the police turned her camera off and brought before a judge and the judge told her to turn the footage off. But I told her I didn't want to get any more or to delete the footage. I'm sorry, but I told her I didn't want any more details because I wanted my reaction to be genuine and authentic and not scripted. But she agreed to come on the show, but she's working, so I'm gonna have to do a pre-record in a couple days here on Saturday, and we can play that on one of our shows. But that's basically what happened. They take her camera, take her inside, and she handles this like a boss lady. I mean, just listen to how calm she is, and the way she just asserted her rights was just great. So let's just watch this queen of the audit at work.
Can I ask what you're doing?
I'm recording the building.
Why?
Because I want to.
For what purpose? Can I get a supervisor to the front door, please?
Hey, ma'am, you know this is a public building?
Exactly, that's why I'm recording it.
It's also a court facility.
Yep.
Which there is a judicial law or judicial order that says that you cannot tape this building.
Can I see that order?
Yes, come on in. We're going to check your IDs too.
Oh, no, I'm not going in.
Oh, yeah, no. We're going to run you too.
No, that's all
We're going
right.
to get your name. We're going to do a report and everything. So come on in. Right?
No.
No, yeah, you're going to come in now.
Am I being detained?
Yes.
For what?
Because right now you are doing something suspicious.
That's not a reason to detain anybody.
Well, it is for Dana. Come on.
It's really not.
Let's go
so
inside,
I'm just going
man.
to stay here and continue recording.
Okay. You're going to come in and we're going to find out who you are and what you're doing here.
No, you're not.
Okay. All right, who's got cuffs? She does not want to go agreeably. Okay.
I'm being detained for just taking pictures of the building.
Yes, ma'am. You're doing something suspicious and we need to know who you are and why you're doing it. Okay?
Are you familiar with the First Amendment?
Yes. I am.
Really?
Let's go in. Come on.
Wow. But let's watch this Cobra strike again. Wow.
Excuse me. I'm almost about. I gotta put the mouse out of my hand here. I might throw it at something. So go ahead and redo it.
Right. I mean, maybe you need to watch the Weasel video to calm down, you know. But I mean, oh my God, that triggered me. I mean, I was like an SJW that just heard the N-word, you know.
Yes, ma'am. You're doing something suspicious and we need to know who you are and why you're doing it. Okay?
Are you familiar with the First Amendment?
Yes. I am.
Really?
Let's go in. Come on.
Wow.
I tried to do this nicely. You are aware of Homeland Security, right?
Are you familiar with the 2010 DHS memo that allows me to film?
That was great. He tried to pull the Homeland Security card, and she's like, "Are you familiar with the DSS memo?" And she's like super calm about it. I mean, it would have been great if she would have quoted further down in the memo, you know, the actual law. But still, I think it's great how calm she's being. I mean, do you not agree, Bunny?
Yeah, she did a pretty good job. It's difficult to keep a calm voice in this kind of situation. So.
Just listen. It's her tone is even. She's just a boss lady. I have so much respect for this woman.
If you've got a reason for being here filming, then we need to know what it is.
No, you don't. It's none of your business.
Huh? ID?
I don't consent to any searches. I'm taking pictures, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then we will detain you until we decide who you are.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm going to remain silent until I talk to a lawyer.
Okay. Call your lawyer.
That includes my camera as far as consent.
Well, it's already on.
Are you
So.
familiar with the Fourth Amendment?
Oh, great. Why do we always get the crazies?
So you go first, Bunny, because I'm white knuckle mad. But please go ahead, brother.
Why do I always get the crazies? Why are you breaking the freaking law, you dumbass? Yeah, that is huge violations, and as is federal. Hopefully they have something that says you can't record at all on court property in their local rules, but I highly doubt it. Every single time I've looked at local rules, it's covered the interior of the courthouse, not the exterior. And as is CFR's federal regulations, which is part of the DHS memo, which we just covered in the last video, obviously states that we're able to record, and it's also building off of the 2000, off of a court case over there out of New York with a federal courthouse. Yeah, so and also a quick side comment. I'm enjoying the fact that there's just a ton of legal information going off like crazy in my chat. People have been arguing various case laws left and right, so
that's great. That's the point of what we're doing, is to increase the knowledge base, because Bunny and I aren't as smart as everyone else. You know, all of our collective arguing and debating is going to produce, you know, a furthering of for the betterment of all of us. Now it's time for me to do my angry rant. Okay, okay, Milazzo, you fucking pig. I mean, he gaslights her the whole time. From the very beginning of First Contact, he states that we're going to go inside and we're going to run you, and we're going to we're going to know who you are, and that you're being detained for you know, purposes. He reiterated twice, the fucking pig that he is, that he's detaining her to identify her. Okay, detaining someone is because you think you have reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime has occurred, and you're investigating whether or not you can, you know, go to the next phase, which is arrest. It's not, they're legally not allowed to detain for the purposes of identifying. And this idiot says this twice on camera. You know, like, I'm so angry. And his reactions to the first time she says, "Are you familiar with the First Amendment?" was met by violent aggression. He's like, "Sure," and he snatches her camera like a fucking snake. You know, this guy's just fucked up in his head. And then the second thing, when she mentioned, "Are you familiar with the Fourth Amendment?" he's all, "Why do I get the crazies?" So he's trying to gaslight a American citizen that knows their rights and asserts them calmly and concisely, as if though she's the crazy person. No, like his willful ignorance of the American cultural value and the law of civil liberties is the crazy thing. The thing that gives him the entitlement of his stupid fucking costume that he wears, that is the crazy thing. He's the fucking lunatic, not pink camera magic. And, you know, end of rant.
Yeah, and Murbeast actually had a pretty good retort to thing. He stated that, let's see, here's, I think, I gotta move my damn overlay here, chat overlay. Here's one for you, BBI. The DHS memo is garbage. You shouldn't rely on it. I sort of agree with that one. It's the CFR that's in it that's actually the reliable part. The memo itself just is legal jargon and stuff like that, really meant for security personnel. It doesn't really do much to explain much. It doesn't establish court precedent or anything like that. And as is, if this security officer, this court officer here, was to actually read the memo, he would understand that, guess what? Unless you literally have something written out from the judge stating that they can't film on the outside of the courthouse, you don't have a case, and you can't sit there and go and hem them up in violation of Terry v. Ohio. They can show up, ask questions at best in that situation. But you just can't sit there and grab them. And in fact, actually, that's not a detainment. That's an arrest, what he did there.
Yeah, when you cuff somebody and move them, then they're no longer detained. They're arrested. And that's true. When you transport, when you move them from point A to point B in handcuffs, that becomes an arrest. So this is a legal arrest. And I have to give you some more information.
Okay, go ahead.
I went through the video very carefully. And she's standing far enough away from the outside of the building and on the front door. And there is no memo posted. There's no thing about saying filming is, this building is sacrosanct from filming. There's nothing about a judge's order to film on the outside. There's nothing posted. She is 100% legally in the right. And when I asked her if she has sought an attorney, she says before she was able to recover her video footage, because remember, she had to use forensic data recovery footage to get this footage even viewable. She was taken upstairs in front of a judge, and she told me that the judge ordered the footage to be deleted. Now, when she approached lawyers, she told me earlier when she didn't have the video, nobody bid. But I'm sure that when a lawyer sees this, she's very calm. She's not disrespectful. She just very calmly asserts her right. She says, I don't consent to a search or my camera or my person. Have you heard of the First Amendment? Very calmly. Are you familiar with the Fourth Amendment? And his responses are, you're crazy. And, why do I get the crazy ones? And it's a violent response to, have you heard of the First Amendment? So she is set up really well. And I'm just loads proud of her actions. And yes, just saying, have you heard of the DHS memo is not quite complete enough for some people, but just saying that on camera has the value of someone to Google it and then look at the PDF and then see the part at the bottom that's more relevant, that's actually talks about the actual law. So that therein lies its value. When they say, have you seen the 2010 DHS memo about filming? When people see that online and they Google it, then they can take the next step. The next logical step is to actually read the whole PDF.
Yeah. All right. So with that out of the way, I have stumbled upon another interesting video. This time, we're jumping over the pond, man. We're gonna have some fun.
Can't wait.
As is, I just recently learned about this channel, but they're actually fairly sizable. Let me get this. Oh, no, that's not the right one. Come on. Did I post the right one? There we go. This is a United Kingdom channel dealing with bad cops. And
oh, wow.
Oh, it gets worse. Okay, the United Kingdom does not... They sort of have this pseudo-constitution kind of thing. The way civil rights works over there is vastly different than how it works over here, like in the United States or Canada, where there's the defined constitution, there's literally laid out kind of stuff. Theirs is more broad. It's based off of stuff... I mean, over 100 years... Well, over nearly, like, I think almost nearly 1,000 years of country development and all that stuff.
Yeah, my style of cop watching is uncategorically illegal in the UK because they have something called breach of peace. And breach of peace states that if you use language in a way that someone else has caused fear, anxiety, or alarm, you're guilty of a misdemeanor crime. So you can literally say, I don't like purple clouds because they make my butt cheeks itch. And if somebody says, well, the part about purple clouds made me feel excited and alarmed, they're going to arrest you, literally, for breach of the Queen's or the Queen's peace. And yeah, so it doesn't even matter the words you use. Just if somebody claims that they were offended, you're guilty of a misdemeanor, and you can serve jail for it. It's just crazy.
And the name of this channel is Crime Bodge. I just actually saw this video right before the thing, and we're having to do some jumping because we're sort of running out of time here, but this is good and good.
Aylesbury, an ancient market town in Buckinghamshire, populated with Tudor and Jacobean architecture. an idyllic setting in the home counties, about to be blemished by a gaggle of cops with too much time in their hands and too little brain in their heads. See, the police don't like people who stand about with posh cameras, not breaking any laws and filming the sights. It makes the officer feel like he isn't the most important thing in the street. So why not go over there and flash some blue cloth? See if he can't reclaim some attention that is his by right.
Exactly.
I was from the town centre.
Okay. What specifically? Because your camera's on my colleague at the minute.
Just everyday life.
Okay, specifically the police or?
No.
No? Okay, just it's very much centred over there.
Oh no, it's not. I'm filming everywhere. I
Do you want to just show me what you've been recording then?
No,
possible?
I don't have to.
You don't? You don't have to, no? You got any details on you at all?
No, I don't have to provide any.
Okay, so do you not work for a newspaper or anything?
I don't have to disclose that.
Glenn?
I love what they call ID, you know, in the UK. They're like, you got any details on you?
Do you not work for a newspaper or anything?
I don't have to disclose that.
Glenn?
Why are you recording then? For what reason?
I don't have to disclose that because
Okay.
I'm in a public place and filming in public.
Well, you know what's happening soon. We'll just be in.
I've no idea what's happening.
We've just been asked to find out who you are, so that's all. Not a problem.
I'm not going to disclose that, I'm afraid.
For what reason?
Because I choose not to.
Okay. John refused to give any details whatsoever. Won't tell us who he's working for.
Okay, what's the problem with giving any details?
Because I don't have to give any details.
Okay. Why are you filming? Obviously,
I've explained why I'm filming. It's just for posterity. It's just because I'm a photographer. It's what I do.
Okay. For who?
For myself.
Okay.
As I've come over, your camera is specifically pointed on my colleagues over there.
Oh, well, if you've been watching me, you've seen that I filmed loads
I've
of
watched
stuff.
you, and you've only been pointing over there.
No, I
and
haven't.
that's what
I've been
see.
filming. I've been filming for about an hour and a half in the centre.
What you've been stood here?
No,
for
I
an
haven't
hour
been
and a
stood here for an hour
half?
and a
Well,
half.
I've been stood here for
I've been filming that statue, and I've been filming the bloke over there playing the flute. I don't have to explain myself to you.
Nobody's required to satisfy a police officer that he or she isn't committing an offence, but too many cops, such as this, regard themselves as travelling courtrooms, where they get to try members of the public on the spot for imaginary offences, simply because that person refused to surrender what little rights they do possess to move around freely. By the way, if you are the sort of person who thinks the police should be able to interrogate, ID and search whomever they want without reasonable grounds just for the sake of making their job easier, then why not go vote for it in Parliament? Civil rights aren't just for the sake of criminals who don't want to be caught. Some of us are rightly cynical of agents of the state, and we tend to believe that the police should only act within the powers they've been granted by the legislator.
Aylesbury, do you know what's going on this weekend or anything like that?
So he's got. I mean, he articulates himself pretty well with this.
You know, that's what I wanted to say, Bunny. That was impressive articulation of the value of civil rights.
Oh yeah, I mean, how he talks about it and all that. So I have to say, I just discovered this channel, and he's already got a large size audience. I'm just surprised he's actually flown underneath my radar, because I try to pay attention to channels or activists that pop up in other countries, especially over the UK, with all the stuff that's been going on the past year with like Count Dankula.
Yeah, I'm an instant fan of this channel just now. I mean, I just converted me. You know, I'm hitting that sub button. There's also a guy there that does satirical comedy by the name of Danny Shine. Danny Shine has been filming police in public for years, and doing it in a way that makes people feel good and makes people laugh. So if you Google Danny Shine's happiness carriage, that will be a great, you know, introduction for people there on the interweb. But Danny Shine, formerly of the Love Police, is just awesome, and he does this stuff as well.
Okay, so you know the history of Aylesbury from...
Yeah.
It's,
I've lived in Aylesbury.
It's not had the best press and everything in recent years in relation to certain people that lived in Aylesbury, has it?
I've absolutely no idea.
Do you know what's going on this weekend in Aylesbury?
Nothing to do with me.
And I'm not saying it's got anything to do with you.
I don't know what's going on this weekend, no.
Okay, so you don't know what's going on. Okay, so we got a big protest going on in Aylesbury this weekend. It's common knowledge.
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay,
Well,
so...
I'm going to skip
Boys
this
were
ahead.
of street photography the day before.
Operations.
Well, we don't know that, do I?
What he's referring to here is an EDL march set for the following day, which in this cop's mind means an automatic prohibition of street photography the day before, even though no public order applications have been made by the Chief Constable.
On this week.
That's got nothing to do with me.
And yes, they can actually, over there in the UK, they can put restrictions on public photography, street photography, and all that stuff. And notice there's a guy with his cell phone taking pictures in the back.
Oh, absolutely. But since he didn't point his camera at law enforcement, he didn't demand the security of the constables. I love British slang. I try to appeal to a UK audience, honestly. My meta tags that I use for my videos, half of them are British derogatory terms and Scottish, Irish, and Cockney derogatory terms for cops. And one of the words they use for cops, they call them constables, which I find hilarious. But oddly enough, if you're in London, the London Metropolitan Police specifically have posted memos saying that you have a right to document and film from public and film officers, but a lot of the other places don't have a memo like that. So London, you're gravy for filming cops according to their memo, although it'd cost you for filming them anyway. But there is a easily findable memo about London specifically. But all the other small towns in the suburbs of London and whatnot, and Wales and Scotland and Ireland, you're at risk.
Yeah, Merbeast, I'm also, I'm too big of a fan of Bill of Rights myself to like the UK, especially with all the recent stuff where they're arresting people for just stuff on social media or watching stuff. It's amazing. All right, let's go ahead and get this going.
Well, no, I do want to give a quick example about what you're talking about. Like the freedom of speech is so curtailed in the UK that there was a case, you can Google, woman arrested in the UK for, quote, a cheeky little growl. She made a growling sound at a cop, and she was actually arrested for breach of peace. So, wow, yeah, that's how much tyranny you have in the UK.
All right.
I'm not saying it's got anything to do with it, but it could have something to do with you. That's why I'm asking. You're telling me that, but I've got no reason to believe it, because you won't give me any details, so I can't check you out.
Your desk sergeant and ask them whether it's legal for me to film in public and whether I have.
I know it's legal. I'm not saying it's not legal for you to film in public. I'm trying to find out your reasons why you're filming in public.
I've just told you that.
You haven't. You said you've told me what you're filming.
I said I'm filming for posterity. I'm a photographer. It's my hobby. This is what I do. Every year in October, I film the centre of Aylesbury because it's a nice time of year. It's nice lighting, and it's you look at the leaves and everything like that. From an artistic point of view, that's why I'm doing it.
Okay. And so what's your reasons for not giving any details then?
Because I don't have to.
But that seems a bit, if you're legitimately filming.
What's your reason for asking me for my personal details?
I'll explain to you. We've got a protest.
Yeah.
We've got history. There's possibility.
I'm not going to
reconnaissance.
Listen to me. I'm not going to give you my personal details, and that's final. Okay.
I don't know about.
Oh, actually, as I say, the key word there, reconnaissance for things. Huh. Wonder what they're trying to imply.
Well, it's obvious. Obviously, they're trying to talk about their anti-terrorism act and try to say that they're scouting for, stalking law enforcement or terrorists.
I think you might have hit the nail on the head, because we're about to find out here very soon.
If I wanted to film some bored cops malingering around the town centre, some kind of extreme right-wing reconnaissance, I'd do it covertly, not stood in plain sight with a digital camera on a tripod. Not that it matters, because this cop has no interest in hearing the innocent explanation the cameraman repeatedly gives him. All the cop cares about is that his authority has been challenged in a public place, and he can't walk away for fear of losing face.
How would you like it if I just walked up to you and said, do you want to tell me what you're doing?
Simple thing is, right?
You might be wearing a police uniform.
I could search you.
But you're a public citizen.
I don't know what you're filming. Okay, we've got potential protest on this. Well, we have got a protest on this weekend. Okay, between where it could. There's possibility trouble could be caused. So I don't know if you're involved to possibly some identification, or I'm going to search you under the Terrorism Act.
No, you're not.
Okay, I'll give you some identification, or I'm going to shut that out to the doubt. So
I was looking at reconnaissance. Surely I'll be on Google Earth or something.
Okay, you can provide me some identification, or I'm going to search you under the Terrorism Act.
No, you're not.
Okay, I will search you.
No, you won't.
Okay, if you're not going to comply to it, you can show me some ID, and I can check you out.
This conversation could have been over a long time ago.
I said, well, fine, I'm going to search you on everything. And if you're not going to, because you're filming buildings and landmarks. We've got a protest on. Okay, you're not providing me any details. You're not providing me reasonable excuse. I don't know who you are.
The important landmark, the strategic landmark he's filming, I guess, is that you know, that little park bench that the couple's sitting on behind him. that's a you know, a soft target the terrorists want to attack, right?
Yeah.
Here you are. Okay, so I'm going to search you under the Terrorism Act. You should perform this modification. I'll search you by force if I have to.
Are you really prepared to do that?
Yes.
I suggest you get your sergeant down here.
Okay, you can vote before I get my sergeant down here, but I will search you first.
No,
so I'm comfortable on decisions.
Well, I'm refusing to let you search me.
Okay, well, it doesn't work like that.
Yes, it does. Because the search he's about to conduct is unlawful, and this man is entitled to use reasonable force to prevent it. Not that it would stop a cop from furthering an assault and battery. The fact is that the Terrorism Act is so often abused by police that it's one of those rare acts that has its own code of practice to safeguard the public from small-minded overlords such as this. Take this section, for instance, which states, "There has been widespread concern amongst photographers and journalists about the use of stop and search powers in relation to photography. It is important that police officers are aware, in exercising their counter-terrorism powers, that A. Members of the public and media do not need a permit to film or photograph in public places. B. It is not an offence for a member of the public or journalist to take photographs, film of a public building. And C. The police have no power to stop the filming or photographing of incidents or police personnel."
Quiet, stop resisting.
You're making it sing.
Do you want to get your sergeant down here?
Hey, they're trained in the same BS that they're trained in America. When they start using force, they say, "Stop resisting." I think this is great. The similarities in pig culture is lovely.
Yeah, and 007 has a great comment. "Oh my God, filming landmarks and buildings like a tourist." Wait, are you mean terrorist or tourist? Are they both the same? All right, let's go ahead and sort of skip this a little bit more.
At this point, the officer conducts a search without following proper procedure. Before any search begins, the police officer must identify himself, state which station he's from, state the object of the search and the grounds of the search, as well as the law he's acting upon. He only has to miss out one of these steps, and the search becomes illegal, even if he has good grounds for making the search, which he certainly doesn't here. The only exception to this, the search is made under Section 60 of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act, where a senior officer can lay down a blanket stop and search operation in a designated area for a period of 24 hours. That was not in force here, and even if it were, the police are obliged to tell you that it's in force, or again, the search will be illegal.
I'll take my bag off. Okay. Do it in my own time, okay? Don't start putting your hands on the bag.
Okay, well, you'll have to take your bag off, and I'll search your bag. You got no ID on your top.
I don't know whether I have or not. I'm not required to by law, that's for sure.
We'll take that. Turn that off.
No, you're not going to turn it off. You're not going to turn my bag off. There you go.
Terrorism Act, Code of Practice 4.13.5. The person being searched should never be asked or allowed to turn the device on or off because of the danger of evidence being lost or damaged.
I'm going to continue to film, yeah.
Having searched the cameraman and found nothing, this officer then needlessly imprisons him further while he performs an unnecessary check to find out who he is, despite having no powers to do so. You aren't obliged to give your name to a police officer who searched you and found nothing.
Okay.
I just want to point out, if this was a detainment situation here in the United States, that search of the wallet would be illegal. Just in a detainment aspect. But of course, also since they walked him over to the police van, that would push it pretty much on the edge of arrest at that point.
Yeah, it would be absolutely illegal here.
So if you keep filming me, I'll seize it. If you're going to make a complaint, I'll seize that as evidence of the complaint. So you can stop filming.
work like that.
Can you believe this cop is willing to further the assault he's already committed on this cameraman by threatening to seize his camera, just because he's voiced an intention to complain? Evidence of a complaint is not a criminal matter, so this cop has no powers under Section 19 of PACE to seize the camera. So the officer's threat can be considered an assault. The cameraman wants to sue this officer for assault, battery and false imprisonment, then get in touch with me and I'll show him how. Otherwise, this becomes yet another example of how the police get away with abusing their powers on a daily basis And all because they can't resist the temptation to harass anyone who dares to film or photograph in the street. Unless, of course, you're a police officer wearing body-worn video, or a council controller operating one of the 6 million CCTV cameras that stare down at us 24 hours a day. Oh, and in case you're wondering how many terrorists have been stopped in the street under the Terrorist Act, searched and subsequently prosecuted, the answer is a big fat 0.
This guy is a damn genius.
Wow. Here's the funny thing with this, the video there. He makes a great point because the same thing can be said about like with the TSA thing. They have caught 0 terrorists. And Murphy's, I'm not applying U.S. law to UK. I'm making comparisons. There's a big difference there. So, but go ahead, Mike.
Their laws are radically different than ours, but yeah, like I've done the same thing. I have torn DHS apart, you know, cussing them out, making jokes about how many terrorists have they caught, and the answer is obviously 0. You know, I've torn Homeland Security apart because originally they were created to protect us from external threats, and I've never seen an example of Homeland Security stopping anything that wasn't actively being surveilled by the FBI, or that wasn't being guided, you know, or something that's basically an entrapment situation. That's the only situations that I ever see DHS and Homeland Security and FBI involved in protecting us. It turns out through their own, you know, affidavits for probable cause for the arrest of the person in the first place, that, you know, they just so happen to be paying the person's rent. And they just so happen to, you know, have made the fake bomb that they were given. And they just so happen to, you know, make recordings of them saying that they wanted to be quote unquote operational. But it's always, you know, the person is always being actively surveilled. I mean, there's no clear-cut examples of that apparatus being used for any other reason than terrorism, or sorry, state terrorism against its own people. And this UK guy just so brilliantly illustrated that.
Oh yeah, and as is the coverage of what happened there is very well done, very well researched. It's sort of what we sort of do here. Just I mean, we're doing a live stream, so it's a whole different kind of thing, where he sat down, took the time, narrated it all out and all that stuff. Really nicely done. Oh, and he's that specific channel is covers quite a bit of stuff that's going on over there in the UK.
What's the channel called?
What is it? Give me a second here. It is Crime Bodge, BODGE, all one word.
Yeah, link me so I can put it in the description under the video. But
actually, if you click, oh wait, never mind. I was gonna say, I thought you could click the title there and it would send it to you, but I'm pretty sure I did link it in the live thing. But I'll go ahead and throw it into the live stuff there. Anyway, we are 8 minutes out from the top of the hour here. We should probably wrap this up and get busy, because I know you got some cop watching stuff to do, and I got some phone calls to make, and possibly maybe another drunken roam or cop watching or something like that going on tonight.
Yeah, I'll be doing some feral hog hunting with my camera this evening. That is correct. I'll do my little spiel first.
Go ahead.
Well, thanks so much, Common Sense, for like putting me up over that $100 threshold. Now I'll actually get paid something for my YouTube channel for my next payday, thanks to you. I appreciate that. It's nice to get a little love from the people that follow my work. And, you know, I think it's the format that me and Bunny's going about with this whole strategic non-compliance thing. I think it's a winning strategy, and there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of it. And just thanks a lot for watching, guys. I appreciate you so much for sharing my work and following it for this many years. Yeah, King 9 will not return. Awesome, Aiden. Thank you so much. If you're watching this, unsteam it. Hook a brother up with a upvote and a resteam for police accountability. You know, if you're not smashing that resteam button, you're an a-hole. You know, don't be an a-hole. Share my work. All right. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. All right, Bunny. Go.
All right. As is, you have been listening to Strategic Noncompliance. We are on twice a week. Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific time frame, And Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific. So this way both East and West Coast has a chance to get off work, have a chance to listen live, participate live with the chat and all that stuff. And when Times opens up, they'll be able to hop in and ask questions to us live through Discord. Anyway, continuing on, you can catch my channel or live streams on YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, Stream.me, and Mixer. And I'm currently working on getting Ustream up and going also on top of that. So this way, if I'm doing a live stream, it's going to be hard to shut me down if someone doesn't like me too much. On top of that, I'm trying to get back into the swing of doing the weekend bar crawling thing, but I'm working on getting over my vampirism sleep schedule, which is still an ongoing issue for me. And as this last night's little bar meetup with another live streamer did keep me up a little bit late, but not too bad. But that might change if I go cop watching and all that stuff again tonight or tomorrow night or something like that. As is, stay tuned and subscribe to us and keep up to date with all the stuff. Who knows what kind of stuff we're going to be filming or live streaming or whatever. I know I got a bunch of actual police watching videos I'll start publishing next week from past encounters. So this way you get a nice and crisp viewing of what happened. So this, instead of relying on a live stream that isn't all that great. Anything else?
No, man. Just thanks a lot, Mr. Bunny Boots, for being the world's best co-host. You know, I think you bring the perfect amount of logic and sarcasm to the equation. It's a good thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys have a good night. See you later this week. Well, I'll probably see you guys later this weekend and all that stuff. Oh, who knows? Maybe I'll get some kissy with the lamps.
Will you make it out with a lamp? What?
I'll tell you after the live stream. Anyway, you guys have a good night.
Brother. And maybe sometime you'll come out cop watching with me and Uncle Bob there, Bunny.
Gotta work my way up there, so. All right, guys, have a good night.